And then he gets angry and starts going like, oh, right, whatever, and like talking over me like, oh, you know, why you asking me to cash app you, this, that, the third. And I'm sitting here scratching my head. I'm like, am I missing something here? Hey dolls, welcome back to my YouTube channel. As you can see from the title, we are definitely about to talk about the red flags that you need to look out for when it comes to dating, sis. Listen, this dating game is no joke. It's never a joke. It's never a game, all right? So I want you to be prepared, and I'm gonna share my top 5 red flags. So let's go ahead and dive in. So red flag number 1 is that he is rushing you to be in a relationship with him, and he says, I love you way too fast, sis. Like, first of all, if a guy really likes you, it's gonna feel a little bit more rushed. Like when a guy's sure about you, typically what I found is women, we can tend to hem and haw a little bit and be like, I'm not sure, let me get to know him, let me explore my options. And men can be very short, like, no, I'm gonna stick around, I know I want you, like, especially when they're in a mindset where they're like, I'm ready to settle down. It can feel a little rushed. So I'm not talking about that little bit of like, okay, like he's more sure than I am. I'm talking about you feel like brother is really at your neck. Like you have no time to formulate an opinion on your own. You have no time to really think and weigh the pros and cons or really just come to your own conclusion. You feel heavily influenced by him liking you. You feel a heavy influence of him pushing you towards being in a relationship with him. Even if you have your own doubts, you feel like, well, dang, like I gotta be with him because he's trying so hard and like he's doing the most. So I gotta be with him. And then if you couple that with him rushing and saying that he loves you, you can feel even more pressure because it's like, man, like he already said he loves me. Like, is this even real? Like, how is he so sure? It just feels weird. Like the whole thing just feels off. That's a red flag, sis. And that's the reason why it feels off. Like I literally have had this situation happen to me a couple of times. Even this year it's happened not too long ago where it's like, okay, this is a little awkward. Like, how do you know that you love me? And we've been talking for like 2 weeks. Like, do you even know what school I went to? Do you even remember my birthday? And in this case, this guy didn't even remember my birthday or my middle name, but you're saying that you love me. Like little basics like that. You can't remember that, but you love me. Sir, get your life, you know? So that's a huge red flag. Like love can't be something that's rushed, in my opinion. It takes time. And so if you feel like you're rushed, like he's at your neck, you can't breathe, you can't think, you can't formulate an opinion, I would take precaution. Like typically, in my opinion, if a guy says I love you sooner than a month, it's like, I don't know. Now there have been instances, I'm sure someone's gonna be like, oh, well, I met my man and we started dating within 3 days and we've been happily married for 10, 15, 20 years. That's the exception, not the rule. In most cases, if it's rushed like that, if it's real happenstance like that, if it's just kind of like, all right, we just gonna jump into this thing, a lot of times it doesn't work out. So watch out for that red flag. 2 is that he doesn't keep his word. Now, I'm someone that takes keeping your word extremely seriously. Like when I tell someone I'm going to do something, they can bet their bottom dollar on that. Like they can bank on that. I'm going to follow through. And if I can't follow through, I'm going to let you know as soon as possible. And I'm going to try to come up with an alternate solution so that you're not left high and dry. I really take my word and integrity seriously. So when a guy is dating you or you're getting to know a guy and he's not keeping his word, that's a huge sign that he lacks integrity. Because think about it. If he told you he's going to do something, you're depending on him to follow through. You're planning around that. And so if he doesn't keep his word, now you're left out on a limb and you got to figure out how to put the pieces together or how to work out this situation or whatever. And if that happens time and time and time again, he didn't forget, sis. That's intentional. Again, I've had this experience even this year where, for example, I was dating this guy. He asked me to buy food for us because we were going to hang out and stuff like that. And he didn't have a chance to cook. So he was like, can you stop and buy some food? So I'm like, sure, why not? And he said in the text message, can you stop and buy food? I'll cash app you back the money. Now, I don't know if he meant he was going to cash app me the money that night or another time. But typically in the past, if he said he was going to cash app me, he did it within the next 24 hours, typically like when I saw him. And so when I met up with him, I just said very simply, hey, don't forget to cash app me the money. And he was like, cash app?
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
And I'm like, yeah, you said in the text you're gonna cash at me. And then he gets angry and starts going like, oh, right, whatever, and like talking over me like, oh, you know, why are you asking me to cash app you, this, that, the third. And I'm sitting here scratching my head. I'm like, am I missing something here? Like, did I, am I forgetting something? So if he says he's going to do something and he doesn't do it, don't ignore that. Again, once or twice you genuinely forgot, cool. But if every time you say you're going to do something you forgot, sir, no, you're trying to pull wool over my eyes. You're trying to get one over on me, and it's not going to work. So make sure you pay attention to that, ladies. Don't ever like try to sweep stuff like that under the rug, because those little instances become big deals down the road. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, sis, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button down below, and don't forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Become a Del Doll, and that also lets the YouTube algorithm know that not only are you enjoying this content, but other people will probably enjoy this content as well. So go ahead and show it to them. Let's go ahead and go into point 3. Red flag number 3 is that he always is the victim when he's talking about his exes, or honestly any relationship that he either is no longer a part of, whether it's a friendship or, an altercation that he had, a misunderstanding, whatever, but he's always the victim. Everybody always has it out for him. That's a red flag, because at the end of the day, like, listen, we all have been victims, but we also have all had our fair share of being the villain in stories, meaning we have done wrong to people too. And so if somebody is not able to acknowledge the part that they play in something, like the role that they had, even if it's nothing really detrimental or dangerous or toxic or whatever, but just to be able to say like, hey, like, I could have done better here, or maybe that wasn't the wisest for me to say or the wisest for me to do. Like, hindsight is 2020. If they don't have the ability to self-reflect, then that means that they lack a sense of self-awareness, and they also lack a sense of accountability. And guess what they're going to do next? They're more than likely going to shift the blame on you when you guys are dating and something happens. They're going to say, well, if you didn't do this, if you didn't say that, if you, and they're never going to be able to say like, hey, like, I can admit I shouldn't have said that, or maybe that was poor timing, or maybe whatever. Like, it's really annoying to date a guy like that, because you always feel like, oh, here we go. Like, I'm going to have to take the blame yet again. Like, and to me too, there's 3 sides to every story. There's his side, his ex's side, and the truth is somewhere in between there. So it's like, if every single woman you dated did you so dirty and you were just a saint and you did nothing wrong, and she just came, after you and came for your neck, I'm wondering, what did you do? Because 9 times out of 10, again, people aren't just coming after you just to ruin your life. Like, granted, you do have the people out there who genuinely are just crazy like that, and sociopaths or whatever, who genuinely are just looking to ruin your life. But oftentimes people act a certain way as a response to something that was done to them or said to them, whether it was overt or inadvertently, whatever. But people usually act as a response. So I'm like, if all of these things happen where your ex did these things to you, then my question is, well, what would she say if I were to go ask her why y'all broke up, or, why she acted in certain ways? I'm pretty sure she would have a different rendition to the story. That wouldn't paint you as the saint that you're trying to paint yourself out to be. So if you're dating a man, ladies, and he just never does wrong and everybody else is out to get him and stuff, red flag. You got a red flag on your hands. The 4th red flag is that he's quick to anger and he explodes on you. Again, we all have moments where we fall from grace. I'm not saying that we all manage our anger perfectly all the time. Trust me, I've had my own moments where I look back and I'm like, sis, you didn't have to do that. Like, you were doing too much in that moment. But if he gets to the point where, or he's at the point when you meet him where you are walking on eggshells, like you're scared to express any sort of feeling or thought or emotion or anything like that, because you just don't know how he'll take it, or you're pretty sure he's going to explode and be like offended and just take it out on you and lash out on you in any way, shape, or form, that's not good. Because one, where's the grace? First of all, like, if you have a moment where you might mess up in the relationship or something might happen, and again, you're just being vulnerable, where's the grace in him to say, you know what, like, even if this is an uncomfortable conversation, even if this is something that I don't necessarily want to hear, or even if I think it's bad timing, I'm not gonna like flip my top and just lash out. Like, I'm going to actually try to process it with a sense of grace and understanding, and, watch my tone and things like that. Like, we have more control over how we act and how we speak than we like to admit. And so you want to see that in the guy. You want to see that he has some form of emotional intelligence to be able to receive information and not just always lash out, or be able to see something and not always lash out. Because I've dated guys who, like, say I'm out in the mall, who goes to the mall anymore, right? And a guy says hi to me, and he's like, oh, who is that? Who is that? Why are you saying hi to him? Da-da-da. And he, like, everything just gets him angry. And it's like, bruh, like, I don't want to be around someone angry all the time. Relax. everything is not that deep, you know? And also, you can't thrive in a relationship with someone like that if you can't openly express yourself without fear of how they're going to respond, fear of how they're going to act, if they're going to lash out, because now you're walking on eggshells, and that's a very uncomfortable position to be in, sis. Like, nobody wants to be doing that. You can't thrive in that situation. It can't be sustained. So if you see that, I suggest that you get out the way, because who knows what that anger is going to eventually become down the line. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to stick around to find out. Now, the fifth and final red flag is when he is overly charming and or he always wants you to be positive. Now, again, we don't mind charm in the appropriate amount of doses, but when someone is going overboard with the compliments, the grand gestures of affection, just always saying and doing the right things, and everything seems like it's almost a performance, that's a red flag. Now, overboard is going to be subjective, because what's overboard for me might not be overboard for you. And it depends on his personality, you know, honestly, let's be honest, his financial status. Like it depends on so many different things, because overboard for one man might not be overboard for the next. But we all know when it just doesn't seem genuine. Like, you know, when you have that feeling when you're like, it seems like he's putting on, like he's trying to portray to be the perfect gentleman and trying to prove that point. Like, hey, look at me. I'm such a gentleman. I'm such a nice guy. Like, that's a red flag. And also, it's if he's doing all of this early in the relationship, like y'all are just dating, you're just getting to know him. Now, if it's like 6 months, 8 months, a year, 2 years down the road, that's different. You know, again, like this is all a little bit subjective in this point. But if it's early on, like you just met him and he's doing the most, that's a red flag, because it's probably a form of love bombing. So like I said earlier, I was going to dive more into this, but a lot of times guys, or people in general, not just guys, would love bomb you in an attempt to get you attached to them. And then once you get attached and they feel like, okay, I have you right where I want you, they start to devalue it. They start to like detach themselves. So they meet you, and this happened to me again this year as well. Like, y'all, I went through so much this year with dating. It's crazy. I can't wait till the end of the year when I just share it all. But, you know, I met a couple of guys where they came on so strong, and it's like, yeah, you're so beautiful, you're so this, you're so that. Like, they're doing the most, they're bending over backwards. Like, they're just, it's like they come in like a knight in shining armor. It's like, wow, you're doing everything that I've wanted and then some. Like, who would have thought? You know, it's almost too good to be true, because it is. And then they couldn't keep it up. After like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you start to see the mask fall off. Now you're starting to see their true colors. You're seeing that they're quick to anger. You're seeing that they really are annoyed by you. They're really talking down to you. You know, you're seeing their true colors. They're not keeping their word and all this type of stuff. And so now you're starting to question yourself. Now you're like, is it something I did? Because he came in and he was doing all this stuff, and now he's acting different. So maybe it's something I did. Maybe it's something I said. But that's all part of the love bombing tactic, to get you addicted, get you attached, and then they detach. And now you're chasing the high. Now you're chasing the validation, and the source of your pain becomes the source of your validation, if that makes sense. But the other reason why I said that he always wants you to be positive as a red flag is because positivity is cool, but we also need negative feelings and emotions in life. You can't have the good without the bad, because if you don't have the bad, you don't really appreciate the good. And humans weren't made to just always be positive. That's what we call toxic positivity, okay? So we have a range of emotions for a reason. And if he cannot accept the fact that some days you're going to be in a bad mood, or he shuts you down when you try to express that you have like some sort of negative emotion, then that's not a good look, because he's not going to be able to really be a support system for you when you need it. And he's not going to be able to receive your emotions that aren't positive, or be any form of comfort to you or anything like that. Like, I remember earlier this year, I was dating this guy, talking. I would say we were talking more so than dating. There's levels to this, okay? I'll have to break that down in another video. But it was long distance, and it still would be even if we were still talking like that to this day. And one of my aunts, I think it was a relative or like a friend of mine, had passed away. And he had also had, no, it was two of my aunts had passed away. And around the same time my aunts passed away, he had like an uncle pass away, and a friend or something like that. Like a few people of his got sick or had passed away around the same time my aunts passed away. And so I was expressing like my hurt, and I was like, man, like it's crazy because life is so short and this and that. And he just was like glossing over it. And I was even telling him, I was like, hey, like, you know, if you want to vent, like I'm here. You have to grieve. Like, you know, everyone grieves differently, but just know, like, if you need a shoulder to cry on, I'm here, and you can be vulnerable with me. And he was just like, nah, like, you know, I ain't no sense in crying, ain't no sense in being upset. We just got to stay positive. Life marches on. And I'm like, oh no, like to me, that was not attractive at all, because I'm thinking like, grief is going to happen in life. Disappointments are going to happen. Like I said, negative feelings are going to come. And I don't know about you, but if we go together, I'm going to lean on you and you going to lean on me. Point blank, period. Okay. So if I need a shoulder to cry on and I can't come to my man because I'm like, he's going to shut me down and like shut those emotions down and possibly even gaslight me and flip it on me like, oh, you need to get over it, you need to mature, you need to keep your head up type thing and be strong, you know? It's just like, that's not gonna work, because then I'm gonna have to bottle it up. I'm gonna have to put on this facade and act like I'm always happy and I'm always positive, and then it's gonna have more adverse effects down the line. I need to be able to express how I'm feeling, and you can be a comfort, even if it's just giving me a hug or giving me a simple encouraging word. I'm not saying you gotta be like comforter extraordinaire, but I should be able to show my range of emotion and know that I'm safe with you if we're dating, and especially if we're in a serious relationship or a marriage. So that's a red flag. If you always feel like you have to be positive around him, if you feel like he's being overly charming, again, going overboard, you personally will know this is something where you have to pay attention to that intuition, that discernment. And if you don't know how, pay attention to, or go watch my video that I did about why you should never ignore your intuition and things like that. I will link them down below, but definitely pay attention to those things and just know that it's more than likely some sort of red flag going on. So don't ignore it. So that's it for this video. I hope that these red flag tips help you out, sis. Again, there are numerous more red flags I could have listed out, but I wanted to keep it short. But I hope that these help you. Don't ignore these things if you see them. You know, at least one of these things, if you see it, is a red flag. If you see all of them, I would just run for the hills and go find somebody else. But don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video out with your homegirls to help them out. I will see you on the next video.